Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, madam.
Good morning.
So, on behalf of Institutional Innovation Council and Central University of Punjab, I welcome you all. Before we start, I request you all to please rise in your respective places for our university anthem, please. So thank you, everyone. It's on behalf of I just asked I requested just. This is a beautiful morning, and I welcome you all to the orientation session of Institutional Innovation Council, where we will have our two innovation ambassadors, Dr. Yoga Lakshmi and Dr. Preeti Khetarpal. Just to give you a brief background, Dr. Yoga Lakshmi and Dr. Preeti Khetarpal has been trained by AICT and MIC, that is Ministry of Education Innovation Cell, for about they have done a course of about 16 hours where they have undergone how to formulate prototype, and Dr. Yoga Lakshmi has done prototype designing and formulating a prototype courses along with various other institutions. So based on that, they are being given as a certified innovation ambassadors by MIC. Dr. Preeti Khetarpal has done similar kind of innovation ambassador training where she has done training on patent filing and what are the innovative ways to convert your research into whether it's patentable or not. So this kind of thing, which is I think very important, So whenever we are working as a researcher, even I don't know as a researcher that whether my research is patentable or not. So orientation and sessions like this will definitely help us to see whether in which direction our research can go through. We are working, we are publishing, but nowadays it's very important that we move our research towards technology transfer. Our research output cannot be just research publications. It has to go to the next level, where it has to get converted into a product and get commercialized. So the objective of Institutional Innovation Council to conduct this orientation session was basically to have an orientation about these things, which even I don't have any idea that if I have to convert my research towards this direction, how I'll go. So we are going to have two very informative sessions, not two, Dr. Yoga Lakshmi and Dr. Preeti whole sessions, and then they will do problem solving, and if you have any queries, the second half would be in that direction. So I think it's going to be very helpful for all of us, and looking forward that more students, more faculty take benefit of this orientation, and in long run we have the small steps which have been taken by IIC of Central University of Punjab will result into some products. So with these words, I welcome you all to the orientation session, and I'm sure that the objective of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, he has always been asking us that we should move towards patent filing. How many patents have been filed in a year, and what are the rate of what is the how we are doing, what are being converted into a commercial product. So definitely with these kind of small steps, we will move ahead with some good results. So I'm sure that you will have a very good output, and we will see. And this is a small starting, and then we will move ahead with more elaborated sessions in near future. So with these words, I end here, and I request Dr. Preeti Khetrapal to please take over. And thank you very much for joining, and I'm sure it will be very productive for you people. Thank you, and I welcome you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for such a wonderful introduction of me and Dr. Yoga Lakshmi. Now, first I request Dr. Yoga Lakshmi. She will talk about the prototyping in business model. Dr. Yoga Lakshmi.
Thank you so much. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I thank, at this juncture, I would thank all the participants, students and faculty who have joined us and who are here to hear us. And as Professor Monisha Dimman pointed out, it's like as a researcher, we are not aware actually like how to convert whatever research is there into a scalable version or a commercial product. There we are lacking. I hope today's session at least will give an idea of how or orient you, like how the research can be taken into the prototype phase or developing a commercial phase. So with this, I'll start with my presentation and I'll share my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. For the next 45 minutes to 50 minutes, I'll be taking you through prototyping in business model. So before talking about what is prototyping, I'll tell you like what is a business model, because there are a lot of students who are here, startup and business model. They might be a very different world for them, because when I started, when I was taking into this training program, it was actually it was a different thing for me. So I'll just brief you like what is a business model or what is a startup, and then we'll talk about the different design phases and what is prototyping actually. So business model, if you ask me in short, it's like how a company makes profit through their products. So here, in a business model, it's like how an organization will create, deliver, and capture the value of a product in terms of economy, social, cultural aspects and all. Now here, the original product, you can end up making a new product or modifying the existing model, which can lead to some sort of innovation. Similar way, a startup is also a company or a project which is undertaken by an entrepreneur, where an entrepreneur develops his idea into a product and then validates the model into a scalable business model. So for all these things, you need to work on design. You need to design it. Like it's not like you think of you have an idea, you have done something, and it is directly entering into the market. That is not possible. So you need to have an approach or a design thinking process, and where you do a stepwise manner, and before you end up into a product which is scalable in a market. So design thinking approach is one approach which can provide a solution or a solution-based approach to solve the problems or whatever idea you have. It is a iterative process, I would say. Like you keep repeating, you keep taking feedbacks. You first initially ideate, then you define what are the problems. You take up the feedback, then put it again into the prototype, then test it, and then finally come to a product which is actually acceptable at the market level. So it is a continuous iterative process, and which helps in identifying different alternatives and solutions, and which is not possible at the initial levels. Like what I mean to say is, like when you think of an idea, this solution or this product would not end up in such a way. So design thinking process will help us to understand the needs of the users. Then you can make a lot of assumptions and challenges. You'll have to face a lot of challenges. Like you keep questioning the problem, you keep questioning your assumptions, and also you keep questioning whatever implications that arise at the end of the product. Then you keep redefining the problems, and at the end, it will help us in developing closeness towards the target users. You can understand them much better and deliver a product which is more close to the target users, which is our main, which would be any designer's prime motive. So you think, you work, and then you make hands-on models or methods, and then end up in a product. So I would define what is a design thinking actually. Like it revolves around a deep interest in developing an understanding of the people for whom we are actually designing the product or a service. So it will help us to extract, teach, learn, and apply these human-centered techniques to solve any problem in a creative and innovative way. So this would be useful in any design, business, or at a country level, or in everyday life. So most of the brands, if you see like Apple, Google, Samsung, GE, they've all applied this design thinking approach for all their products. I would like to give an example here. For example, the Google Meet. Though Google Meet was launched in 2017 as a small video conferencing app where 30 people can get connected. But this corona pandemic has ended up, now Google has updated the 30 people limitation to 100.
Dr. Yoga, I'm so sorry. Your slides, they are not moving.
Not moving.
Could you please just click again on the slideshow? And then maybe.
Just a minute, ma'am.
And now this fourth slide is visible. Maybe you just you can click again on slideshow and then.
Is it moving now?
No, ma'am.
No, okay. I think I'll put it this way, like not in slideshow. I'll just zoom it maybe.
Right.
Now is it moving? Now I think it's visible now.
Yes. Yeah, it is moving.
Yeah. Sorry for the interruption. Yeah. So this is what I was talking about. Okay. So yeah. So business model. Just I'll go through a couple of slides which I've already done. And here definitions, yeah. So I was talking about the Google Meet, which was launched in 2017 as a a small video conferencing app for just persons of 30 living. Now, after the pandemic, the situation has demanded there were a lot of other apps which were there, and Google had to work on it, and then now they have increased the limits from 30 to 100. So this is one simple example. Same is the case of when you talk about Apple iPhone or a Samsung phone. They keep. They are close to the users. They see what are the demands of the users, what the user actually need, and then they keep upgrading and updating their system, and that is why you have different versions like iPhone 10, 11, 12, Samsung 15, Galaxy. So such things keep coming up, and all these products are close to the users, I would say. Whatever the user demands, based on that, these companies they work and then bring out the product. So that's where the design thinking actually comes. So next, like, what are the stages? Now, when we talk about design thinking, there are 5 stages, or you can say 5-phase model of design thinking. Now, it starts with empathize, then define phase, ideate, prototype, and a testing phase. Now, here in empathize and the define phase, you understand actually what is the problem, what do you need to provide for the users. In the ideate and the prototype phase, you explore what are the different ideas, like how to solve this problem or whatever understanding that you've gained, how to solve it. So that you will be working on the ideate phase and the prototype phase. And last, in the testing phase, you will materialize the product, and the product will be released after all the initial testing. It will be released to the market. Now, what is the significance of this design thinking stages is like, one, they will help in tackling problems through reframing the problem in a human-centric way. Human-centric means what the public demands. Then it will give you a multiple ideas which you can generate through different ideating techniques, like it can be a brainstorming session, it can be a brainwright session, or the worst possible idea session. So a number of ways by which you can generate a lot of ideas. Then you can adopt a hands-on approach through prototyping and testing. So I'll take you through each of these stages one by one. So first is the empathize stage, where you can say this is the first stage of design thinking process, which is very a crucial step. And always the design which you talk about, it should be human-centered. Here you cannot make your own assumptions. What you need to do is just keep your eyes and ears open, look into the world, what the people is understand the feelings, and what is the, you understand what are the demands, what the public actually needs. That you have to look into. Then you work on, you communicate with a team or experts, and then you come to an idea. In the empathize phase, you keep understanding. So you have to continuously keep observing. You engage yourself and empathize with people and understand their experience and motivations. So somewhere you have to live in the physical environment before you understand actually their issues. So here in the cartoon also you can see that the one cartoon says to the other cartoon character that I know exactly how you feel. That is what is needed in the empathize phase. So depending upon the time constraint, like how fast you need to develop the project, you can gather much information. Most of the time the designers take a lot of time to collect a lot of information, and then which can be put into the next stages and develop a prototype or the product. The next phase would be the define phase, which is a next phase in the design thinking process. Here what happens is, like, whatever information that you have gathered in the empathize stage, that will be analyzed, they'll be synthesized and in a proper order, and finally you will define what is the problem is actually, what problem you're going to solve, what is the need for a particular product. So as I told you earlier also, continuously I'm talking about human-centered problems. Now human-centered, I can give you an example. For example, if I need to increase the consumption of a particular food product among the young teenage girls, and I need to increase the production by 5%, but my problem definition, how I would define the problem in a human-centric manner is that the teenage girls need a nutritious food, and for them to be healthy and grow properly, thrive in this world. So that is how I'll frame or formulate the problem here. Then after you formulate, okay, the designers can gather the information and then ideate for any particular feature, for any function or any other element. Now, after this, here in this phase, you keep asking multiple questions, like how this can be done, or how the product can be delivered, what are the benefits that the girls can get, how to reach the market, like how our product should be there. So you keep asking a lot of questions in the define phase. This will help actually solve the problem and give a product which will be more successful in the market. In the ideate phase, which is the third phase of the design thinking process, so whatsoever you've collected from the empathize stage, the basic understanding or the emotions of the users, you put it in the define phase, you analyze them, synthesize their observations, all those things you use and start generating ideas. Now, when you generate ideas, it's always better, like in a designer, it's always better that they work as a team, because when we work as a team, many ideas, new ideas can be generated. Also, when I put a point, the other person, my team member, can touch upon the untouched aspects of a particular idea. And also, you have to think out of the box to solve a particular problem. And always keep looking into alternatives for how this problem can be solved, not like one way. Like when you work as a team or in an ideate phase, what you have to do is not just one solution. You also find out like what would be the good solution, what would be the worst solution, and what solution shouldn't be given for a particular product. Now, there are different ideation techniques through which this can be done. One is the brainstorming session, which I told you earlier, and also the brainwrite session, or the worst possible idea. I'm sure everybody knows what is brainstorming. It's just a group discussion where a team sits and then analyzes the problem and then give out a number of ideas. In a brainwrite, it is also similar to brainstorming, but the only thing is here the individual team members work separately and then they come and put together their ideas. Now, the worst possible idea, it's like this method, you just jot down all the worst ideas which can harm the product. You can ask me, like, this method also, particularly motivates the designer for not getting into or providing that particular solution which is actually harmful for the product, or which will diminish the value of the product in the market. Now, again, there are, see, I would say, like, after entering the ideation step, it's not like I have come to an idea, let me stop. It's not like that. You can keep ideating at every phase, even after the end. If you have arrived at an idea, still, if you find that, okay, it can be modified in this way, some other ideas can be added to this, still you can go about it. So any idea which is coming out till the end of the ideation phase, that can be added, so that you again come out with a product which is more acceptable in the market. Now, prototyping, which is the main concept of this session, it's the fourth stage of design thinking. Here, you come at a scaled down version of the product. You depict, or you give a miniature product, I would say, so that you can identify or you can see how the product is reachable in the market, how the product actually looks like. So that is what is a prototype. So this will help a designer in achieving an inexpensive and a scaled down version of the product, and it will also help us understand what are the problems which can arise based on the present design. Then the prototypes are generally shared among the team members, or after you make a prototype, even you can identify a small group of people outside the team, and then you can present your prototype to the people. They can look at it, they can give the feedback, and you can again use it for updating your product or improvising your product. So it's just an experimental phase which aims to identify the best possible solution based on the, best possible solution for each of the problem which is being identified in the first initial stages, like the empathize phase, define phase, and the ideation phase. So this will, the solutions, the prototype will provide solutions, and after the prototype is presented to the team members or a group outside the team, you can decide whether you can accept the prototype, or you can accept it as such, or it needs any improvisation, or you need to re-examine the product, or you can also reject the process based on the user experience, which is because if you do it at this particular stage, then you can save a lot of money and lot of time. After you, for example, if you take it to the market, and there, if you're getting a lot of feedbacks and the product is not, going as you expect, then it will be difficult, because you have invested a lot of money, time, and things like that. So which, to avoid basically the failure of the product in the market, it is very, very essential that you have a prototyping stage. So at the end of prototyping stage, you arrive at a better idea, and also you identify all the constraints which are inherent to the product. And this will also give a clearer perspective of how the users would will take the product, how they'll behave, think, feel, and how they interact with the end product. So that clear perspective or a view you can get at the end of the prototyping stage. Now, the testing stage is the last stage of design thinking process, where the product or the feature is tested completely based on all the solutions that you have identified, based on the feedbacks that you've got from the prototype. You upgrade them, you modify them, and then finally a product comes, and then you test the product. Once the product is tested and everything is satisfied, then the product enters into the market. So the results that are generated during the test phase is generally used either to redefine, or if there is any problem, again you can work out, and then inform the team, or you can have an awareness about the understandings of the users, how the users receive the product, and also you can have an idea about the conditions of use and what places it is more actually the product is usable, and how people think, behave, feel, and interact with the product. So all these things you get at the end of the testing phase. So even at this stage, if there is any alterations that is required, you can go back and then do it. So here I would like to say, like, this 5-stage process, it's not unidirectional, like one after the, of course, it's not unidirectional, like one after the other it has to go. if you're finding any problem at the ideation phase, it is very well encouraged that you go back to the empathize stage. Again, you keep understanding the problem with the users, understand the emotions, and then come back. So at any stage, if you're finding a problem, if your prototype is not working, then you can go back to the ideation phase. You can find out wherever the problem, again, at any point of time, you can go to any particular stage and then solve it. So all these things will help a designer to deliver a product which is more acceptable for the users. So coming to the actual core of the topic, prototyping. So from here, I'll be focusing on the prototypes and give more elaborate information about the prototypes. Now, I've given a brief introduction about what is prototyping. Now we'll see why prototyping is important or necessary for a designer or in a design thinking approach. Generally, the prototypes will give a better clarity of design and validate it. See, for example, you have an idea, you empathize, you define, and then you have an idea. So, but how the idea will come out into a product, it depends upon the prototype. So if you make a prototype, you will be aware, okay, whatever idea that I had in my mind or what my team members are working together, so now it has come out in a product in this way. So it will give you a better clarity of design. So whatever you can, after looking into a prototype, you can say, okay, I have thought like this and the product has come out in this way. So should I change this or should I modify this? So that is how. So it gives a better clarity of design. Then you can arrive at a early feedback, which is very important, because if the product is ready and if it reaches the market, and at the end, if the market is not accepting the product and the product leads to the loss of the company or a startup entrepreneur, then it becomes very difficult. So when you prepare a prototype and then present it before the team members or the a small group, they'll give the feedbacks and you can take the feedbacks and then work on the basic design or improvise the prototype and then send it to the market. Then, as I told you, it will also save time and cost, because you invest a lot of time in the empathize phase, then you define the core problem, then you ideate it, and you invest a lot of time. Like, not only you, it is an entire team which is investing a lot of time. But once the product enters in the market, if it becomes a failure, then that much of time and cost is very, very, time and the loss would be there in terms of cost. So that again, it's very difficult, because as an entrepreneur or as in a business model, you need investors there. So investors who's going to invest on your product, if they are not happy with the end product that reaches the market, then it will end up in loss. Like in future, you'll not be able to get more funding and things like that. Then it will also help in evaluating the technical feasibility, and if there is any things in the manufacturing process that can also be modified. Then you can build up a market communication. You can present this prototype. It is easy for you, instead of making a product, spending so much making a product and presenting it before the investors. If you have a small prototype, then it is easy for you to present it to the investors, and the investors also can come to a conclusion like, okay, can I fund your project, and can license be given to this project? And same way, through this you can raise a lot of funds. If your prototyping is best, you can deliver a good product, and you can that will be easy for you to raise funds. Then also it will be useful for registering your patents, having the IPR, and also it will help in testing and refining the product. So for all these things, it's always better that you have a prototype and then go to the testing or making a product. Yeah. So to define what is a prototype actually is, it's a simple visual representation of an idea which will be used to test and refine a particular product or a service based on the feedbacks. Now, again, this results in a low cost and a scaled down version of the product, which will reveal all the problems which will be coming up in the current design, and so that you can rectify and give a proper product. Now, how this prototype can be done? It can be simply done on a piece of paper. You can have make sketches or diagrams in a on a paper, or you can develop a miniature model using cardboard or paper, or even 3D printing can be used. So in that way, you can develop a prototype, and then you can use it for finding out the feedbacks from the users. So prototypes, they offer designers the opportunity to bring their ideas to life, then to resolve all the uncertainties that evolve around the ideas, and also to test the practicability of the current design, and to potentially investigate how the sample of users think about the product, what are the feedback, whether it is acceptable or it needs information. So all these informations you get at the end of the prototyping stage. Now, what would be a good prototype, or what are the good qualities, qualities which you expect in a good prototype? First, it is a representation. Though it is a small scale or scale down representation, or a rudimentary representation, you can say, of the actual product, it should show what the actual product would look like. I would not say like all the functional features you have to put it in a prototype, but at least it should look the way the product will actually look like. That is one thing. So representation is very, very important. Second, precision. More precise your prototype, better would be the response and the feedback. So for example, if you're preparing a prototype and that is acceptable in the market and the product is not similar to the prototype, then again it will lead to a failure. So precision is more important. Then functional. At least, if not providing all the functional features in the prototype, at least the basic functions which you're going to add in a website or an app or a service. So all these things should be there. At least basic functions should be represented in a prototype. Then improvisation. Now, a prototype can be improvised at any particular point, and if you have to improve, then only minimum effort has to be invested on this. That is more important. So these are the 4 qualities I would say that is very much required, or which can categorize a prototype as a good prototype. Now, what are the different types of prototyping? There are many different ways by which prototypes can be made. Okay. Now, broadly, if you say like prototypes can be classified into a low fidelity or a high fidelity prototype, or it can be classified based on the functional and a non-functional prototype, or a physical prototype and all. So broadly, we classify based on the low fidelity and a high fidelity prototype. Now, low fidelity means it will be very simple. It's a simple prototype of the product which is developed, and the version will be incomplete. It will not have all the functions which is there in the product. Some basic functions would be there, and with that the prototype can be developed. And when we talk about the high fidelity, the prototype will be more interactive and more functional, and it will have all the features which are there in the product. You can say it will be much closer to the product. Now, the process by which you define like whether it should be a low fidelity prototype or a high fidelity prototype will generally depend upon the product or the service which you're going to deliver it to the customers. For example, if you just need to understand how the product would look like, then you can go for a low fidelity model. But if you want to see how the product or the software or the service will work, then you need to understand the functionality. Okay, then you need a high fidelity prototyping. So the high fidelity prototype, again, as I told you, it will have all the features. For example, if you're developing a website, then if you're showing all the features in the website, or for a particular app, if you're showing all the features, and if you're giving it presenting it to the investors or a small group, and you want to show all the features which are there, then it becomes a high fidelity prototype. Now, under low fidelity prototype, you have different types, like starting from a paper prototype, a sketch prototype, or a diagram prototype where you use flowcharts, customer journey maps, or mind maps. And also animations are there are a type of low fidelity prototypes. Then wireframes, storyboards. These are some of the low fidelity prototypes. On the other side, if you talk about high fidelity prototypes, you have interactive mockups, you have a physical prototype, and also you have wizards of OS. Now, wireframe, it's like just all the features which are there, you just, I'll in the later slides, I'll just show you an image how like wireframes look like. It'll have the basic structure, the basic features. For example, I'll give you an example of a website. So whatever basic features which are required, that would be visualized. So a user can visualize, a designer can visualize like how the prototype will look like, what feature will come at which place. So that would be a wireframe. For storyboard, you can jot down all the ideas of team members, okay, and then make it like which will come first, second, and third, like a descriptive, I would say a schematic view, okay. Then in a diagrammatic, like mind maps, like what a designer thinks in their mind, that will be plotted, and then it will be discussed and made as a prototype. Same as a flowchart. Flowchart again, how it moves the apps in a particular app, how the feature moves, like which one will come after the other. That will be made as a prototype in a flowchart or a customer journey map. Like in a customer journey map, again, how the customer needs the product, what they would expect. So that is how it is made. Same animations, like how a prototype, you can animate the prototype and then say, see like, for example, sometimes like there are certain websites which are given just like to understand or take the feedback from the users. So there they will animate how it actually works. Like again, how do you enter it, how it will open, like, so that way of animation. Okay, now you talk about high fidelity. As I told you, in interactive mockups, after you do preliminary sketching or a paper prototype, which you can make it using cardboards or paper, here in interactive mockups, you'll have all the features which are there, which you have made it in a wireframe. That every feature. So in a low fidelity, all the basic features would be there. Here, all the intricate details of even the high-end features, like what would be the color of your the screen. Okay, when you have a website, what would be the color? What feature would be there? So everything, all basic or intricate details or all the features will be listed up in an interactive mockup. Now, physical, again, you can use like the 3D printing. I'll show you examples also. Like in 3D printing, like how, for example, if you're making a key, or if you're making a printed toner, then the entire, like how the toner will look like, how the key will look like. So you make a 3D image or a 3D model, and then that is presented to the investors or the market. Then the wizard of OS is nothing but here you take the, it will be like you connect with the, you connect, the designer will connect with the human-centric problem. For example, the other side, they will interact with the system, but the system on the other side will be under a human who will be sitting on the other side and will send the responses. It is somewhat a faking type of prototype. Okay, so these are the different types of prototyping which is there. I'll show you the images. So this is some pictures. Like this is how a paper prototype looks like. For example, if you can watch this YouTube, maybe later I can share it also. So there they'll show you like these are paper. I mean sketches which are made by the designer, and how like it moves one after the other. First this would be the first screen, then after this it will ask about this, then coming to this, and it keeps moving one after the other. So this is an example of a paper prototype, how it actually looks like. Now this is a 3D prototype. So again, this model is made. This model is made how a product will actually look like, and then it is presented to the investors or the market for its usability. Then this is a sketch or a wireframe prototype. Yeah. So here, if you can see, this is a drawing, okay, how the app is going to look. So this is a drawing, simple sketch that is made, okay. This is developed into a wireframe where all the features are designed, okay. Maybe you can use the app, there are a number of apps, or you can sites which are available to make the prototype. And from that, this is a mock-up where you can see all the features, like how, what would be the colors of each of the things which are there in the app, so everything. And this is the final prototype. Okay, so these are the different phases, like moving from low fidelity model to a high fidelity prototype. So through it's a sequence of upgradation, and basically you sketch it out, then you make a wireframe, and then you mock up with all the additional features. Apart from all the basic features, you add all the additional features, and then you bring out a prototype. Okay. Now, what are the tips for creating a good prototype? When do we say that, how can you develop a good prototype? First, initially, the basic consideration is like you have to think about the conditions, like for which, like if you're creating a prototype in the lab, whether it will remain in the lab or if you take it to the field, it will work properly or not. Or whatever item that you have, or the product that you have designed as a prototype, it has to be working properly in the outside. Like for example, if you're presenting it to a investor, or if you're presenting it to a small group to get the feedback, if it is not working properly, then that will not end up in a good thing, right? So there, again, you have to look into the conditions, like whether it will work as it is working in the lab, will it work in the same way when it is taken to the field. And also you have to think about its use. What would be the wear and tear. See, whatever you produce in the lab, okay, that would be for a small working stage, it is useful. But when you take it to the field, that cannot work in a similar way that it had worked in the lab. And it will face a lot of wear and tear. So how actually, for which conditions you're going to provide, that is more important. Then change it. Be ready to accept the flaws which the prototype is facing and try to make the changes again. And even if you have to start from stage 1, starting from the empathize phase and again define or ideate, or if you have to ideate again, don't think, okay, I have spent so much of time, it's all become waste. Not like that. Again, be ready to go back to the stage, find out, identify the flaws where you have made the mistakes, sit with your team, and then again rectify all the flaws and issues, and then come back with a new prototype. So this will again help you from failure when your product is taken to the market. Then the third important point is think about safety. Safety is very, very important. For example, if you're preparing or if you're what to say, your prototype, like a software, or if you're an app or something like that. So it's very, very essential that you protect your softwares from the cyber criminals or hackers. So that way of safety is very important. Not only this, there are every time when you talk about a product or at the prototype stage itself, you have to think about the safety. So when the product goes to the market, so how it will actually whether it will be safe, whether it will when you sit within a small group, you will not be aware like what sort of people would be accessing the softwares, how they can hack and all. So, but when you let into the market, so all these, so you have to have a long-term thinking like how this will actually be. So that minimum safety you have to give, and then then it becomes a good prototype. Then always involve a team, because again, I told you, individual, if you think in one perspective, what will happen is you will be going in a straight line. To a certain extent, you will not think the untouched parts. But if you work as a team, or if teammates are there, then they will help you saying like, okay, this area we have to work on. This area needs improvisation. This can be done this way. So always a team would provide a better solution. So in that case, a prototype would work much better. So these are the tips which are required when you have to make a good prototype. So to summarize, a prototyping step is very, very important in a design thinking approach. It will help you evaluate like how the product will reach the market, whether it will be a success or a failure, what would be the different flaws that the product will make, and it will save your time and it will save your investment which you have made. Moreover, it will also attract more investors. The more, ideating, everybody will get an idea. But unless and until you put it as a prototype, till that time, ideas will not work. Okay, you can have a number of ideas. See, every day we generate a lot of ideas, but putting it into a prototype, it's a big thing. So the transition from the ideation phase to a prototype phase is very huge. So if you do it properly, then the failure that the product will face in the market will be very, very less. So it's very, very important that you do that. And also, as I told you, the investors, see, why are we doing a startup, or why are we developing a product? Of course, to be successful, to earn money. But If it is not working properly, then it becomes a failure. So whatever you have invested, that leads into a loss. So it is very, very important that always you do a prototyping, and the prototyping keeping in mind all the necessary things, and then you make a prototype. And whenever you find a flaw, please be ready to go back to any of these design phase, wherever you have made a mistake or a flaw, correct it at the prototyping stage, and then reach out in the testing phase and then make a product. So all these things will improve your failure. Improve the success rate. I'm sorry. It will improve the success rate of any product in the market. So with this, I'll stop here. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, we can go. Before this, like one example which I would like to give, for example, the hero cycles. Like hero cycles, there were many cycle companies which were there. There they wanted to make a innovative way of cycle. So they started designing on this handlebars, like how it actually in a different way, like attractive way, like how more people can buy hero cycles. So they made a lot of sketches, like how different handlebars can be, how the handlebars will look like, and the wheels, the spokes of the wheels, all those things. See, somewhere or the other, you can by doing so, if you attract the people in buying or preferring hero cycles from other cycles. So this is one example like this. Many companies, many software apps or websites, they have done a lot of basic work, and then they have presented the prototype, and then it comes into the market. So thank you so much. I'll stop here. If you have any queries, I'm open for it.
The session is now open for discussion. Students, if you have any question.
Good morning.
One student, Sai Ishwar, he has asked. Okay, Sai Ishwar, you wanted to ask yourself, please go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am. It's a nice session, ma'am. Thank you for the session, madam. How can we design a plan so that within less investment we can introduce the physical product we have developed from a prototype into the market in order to know its market, so that it can run, my business can run. How can we plan such within less investment, ma'am?
Good question, Sai. That is what I'm telling you. So, like, for example, if your prototype is ready, then it is easy for you. I mean, you also feel confident to take it to the market. But for that prototyping, to test your whatever product that you've made, you can have discussion with some outside group. For example, if I'm making a particular product for the kids, if I'm making some milk powder, you can identify small groups, you can supply your product to them, ask them to consume it, get their feedback, and then you can do it. So that is one way. See, when your prototype is ready after undergoing all these process, and you give it to the small set of groups, and then you take the feedback and then work on it, obviously I feel your product will be successful. It will not lead to a failure. And minimum investment, again, when you talk about the cost, that is the main factor why we are not entering into the level of developing a product. So in that case, what you can do, again, your team, if you have a team, and here, like experts, the consultant experts, in the first Empathize phase I was talking about experts, you should have a team. Your team is very, very important. When you develop a team, when you're going to develop a product, your team is very important. So the team should not comprise only your peer group. Also, you should involve some consultants, like who are expert in this field, some industries or industrial experts who can help you out. You can work along with them. So I don't think in that, if you go in that way, your product would be a failure. So in that case, the cost minimization will also be minimization can also be done.
So thank you, ma'am.
So do we have any other question? Okay, so we have another question from Abdullah Faizi. So he want to know what are the financial the support it is available if someone comes up with the
with the prototype?
Actually, you have to find out investors. Like you have investors, like they call it as, there are companies, they talk about angel investors. You have to go meet them, present your ideas to them, or you present your prototype. Then, if it is acceptable, then they come. They will be ready to invest on your product, and then it comes. So you have to identify. Like for example, there are many angel investors who are there with that help these startup entrepreneurs.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Yogalakshmi. Indeed, it was a very enlightening session, and although we all are researchers and academician, and then coming up to this level and presenting in this way was really good, very nice. Thank you very much. It was amazing, very nice. Thank you. So
Thank you,
yes,
ma'am.
just to add to the students that yes. Innovation Council and Ministry of Education Innovation Cell is also proposing, and very soon we will be having a national innovation and startup policy in place. So we are working in that direction, and very soon all the higher education institute also, they will have their own NISP policy in place, and with that there will be a separate how we can help the students. That way a student was asking about the grant and startup, how the budget can be allocated and all that. So after once the NISP is in place, so we will have a startup policy of our own university, and that way how the funding to our students, if they are interested in starting something, how students can be helped, or even teachers. So that this new NISP policy is very it's promoting the academician as well as students to go for to start for the startups and all. So definitely within few months we will have more options for you people to explore. I think thank you very much, Dr. Yoga. So now we have Dr. Preeti Ketarpal. She's another innovation ambassador. As I shared that she's a registered patent officer. She's taking care of our IPR cell. She's convener of IPR cell, and she has been trained in the sessions. As I was telling you, she has undergone training of how to design, what are patent design, how we can evolve from a researcher to how the patent can be filed, or all these technical as well as scientific things she will be discussing with you. So and now I request Dr. Preeti Ketarpal to please go ahead with the next session. Dr. Preeti.
Thank you, Dr. Monisha. So first of all, I would like to thank MOA's Innovation Cell for providing the training and giving us orientation. I also thank Institution Innovation Council of CUPB for giving this opportunity, wonderful opportunity to interact with you all. So I'm sharing my screen, and I hope it will be visible to all of you. So Dr. Yoga Lakshmi, she has talked about prototype development, the various stages, and it is important in detail. So now I will talk about the importance of design in product development. So you are doing research, you are producing something new, you are producing a product or a process, and it is obviously, it must be some innovative in nature. Now, what is our next step? So you see, for the startups, it's very important to identify the challenges and the numerous issues, because most of the time the researchers, the scientists and the faculty, they are not aware about initiating the entrepreneur. They don't have, actually we don't have the entrepreneurship culture and skills, and we are not aware about the actual challenges which we may take place once we produce the product, and what are the nitty-gritties which we must take care while launching a product. So see, if you are a startup, if you are looking something to produce a new product and you wish to market it in the in our country, or maybe at the international platform, you should be aware that cash is king for the startups. So it's like you need lot of investments because there is an issue for development of the product, manufacturing of the product, and then you need to hire the qualified employees also. So there will be lot of employees taking care for the from the accounts section to legal departments and about the various regulatory measures. So all these clearances, they are required. So for startup, the most important and the difficult challenge is to raise the capital. So that is something the most important challenge. Now, how the startup, the people can actually overcome this. So one thing is to raise the money, or to raise the cash. They look for the investors. So at that time, sometimes the startup, the owners, they don't feel like that intellectual property is really important. Sometimes they feel like it is distracting, too much expenses it is involved for the for filing the IPs, as well as to keep, because lot of professional fees will be required to be paid. And when they talk about the intellectual properties, then they mostly consider about the patents, and we most of the time we tend to ignore the other forms of IP. So while launching a product, there are other industrial form of IP that is also required to be taken care. You need to have a trademark, and nowadays that trademark, the brand name must be something catchy. The people, they, because they relate usually with the well-established trademarks. So while launching a new product, you are introducing a new product, your brand will take some time to develop the brand value. So it is very important that you have your trademark and get it registered. You also may be having certain copyrights associated with the punch marks, and then obviously the product need to be designed. So it will be it should have some aesthetic appearance. So IP is actually a bundle of right that can support business. So this is very important for the startup, for the owners, because they can derive value from the innovative and creative output. So the investors, they are always attracted to a venture which has already or had applied certain IPs. So that is actually that it is a sort of a intangible form of assets. So it is very important that to integrate the IP right into the business plan. So now each form of IP can protect this different aspect of your product. So you must remember your new product may be certain a process, you are providing a service, or it is a product that you can provide, that you can actually protect under the patents. The brand name, you are protecting it under the trademark, and its aesthetic appearance you are protecting under the industrial design. So here comes the importance of the industrial design in the product development. So it is very important while launching a new product, it must have certain acceptance in the market. Now you see, whenever you go to the market to buy a new product, say for example you are buying a watch. So what is the most important feature which you look for? Maybe the brand name, the features. Mostly they are all the different products the shopkeeper will show you. They are performing the same or similar kind of function. Might be some may be having some more advantage or some other advantage, but it is actually the look which determines whether you are going to buy that product or not. See, the product, it creates an emotional connection with the user. So you must remember whether that product will become successful or not. It will depend upon lot of things. So you as a researcher, we most of the time we just think about patents only. But we must remember that along with patent, it is the trademark which will determine whether that product will have selling value or not. You may have certain trade secrets, as you can keep any function or any important thing, the processes, as a trade secret. And then about the industrial design. So sometimes those who are new into the business, they tend to ignore this form of IP, and they forget that it is actually this form of IP which integrates all aspects of form, fit, functional, and also provides the user experiences. So it is important to ensure that the product is actually ergonomically suited to fit the user. So how successful startups are able to do this can determine the success of a product in the market. So this is very, very important, especially nowadays we have mostly consumer driven market. So consumer is going to have its maximum say into that. You see, I just you think about any product you see, any product you see it is being launched or it is whatever is in the daily use, you can just imagine the amount of the different type of IPs which is associated with it. See now, for example, sabne subah chai piya. Everybody has taken a cup of tea or maybe a coffee. Have you ever bothered or have you ever paused the kind of the different form of IP that cup of tea may be having? See, there might be certain secret tea recipe in that small pouch of this powder. There might be certain geographical indication. You see, you have heard about Darjeeling tea, you have heard about Assamese tea. So it may have certain quality or flavor which is linked to the geographical origin. Then obviously you are having cup of tea, you are going through newspaper, book, or that is protected under the copyright, or even there are certain stories about the tea itself, like a nice cup of tea. So that is protected under the copyright. And then the cup you are having your tea into must be having certain aesthetic appearance. So that is how you are actually you are taking your tea. So that cup, that pot, that its appearance might be protected under the industrial design. And then of course the tea itself, the components, the processes of making the tea production methods, all this may have received the patent protection. So you see, a pen, a tea, or even a small any other product, if they are protected under all these form of IP, so then why can't your product, which you wish to launch in the market, they should not be, or it shall not be protected under the different forms of IP. So if you look for the product development, if you're thinking to launch a product, if you're thinking to file for a product development, maybe you wish to file for a patent, but your work actually doesn't stop there. Earlier, there was a time when most of the researchers, they were mostly involved with the patenting only, and then probably they were licensing it to the other companies. But now the emphasis, the ideas, the information, the awareness, it has shifted to the researchers themselves, that if you had developed that product, why don't you launch it yourself? Why can't you have your own startups? So while you wish to have your product being it's like you wish to have it to launch in the market, there are various stages for the product development. You had idea, you had the concept, so obviously that need to be developed. You need to have some feasibility study. There has to be certain people who are willing to pay for the product. This very, very important. People, it is the market which is consumer driven. So people are not going to spend too much any amount, they're not going to waste it. So there has to be certain reason for them to pay from their pocket, and then words, they spread very fast. So if you have the good if you wish to have the good market, you must have the startup company must have a good repo associated with it. So feasibility study is very important, and then along with that, designing of the product takes place, very, very detailed designing, which is mostly taken care by the designer. There are design engineers. So as Yoga Lakshmi Madam has told you, that it is mostly the inventor's job is to develop a prototype, a working model, and then to give it certain aesthetic appearance, he may work himself or may take the help of the design engineers. Then afterwards, there is also the question of the materials, the manufacturing process which comes into picture. What are the different processing and about the environmental clearances and other regulatory affairs while making that product? Where is the source of the material? Obviously, the source of material needs to be cheaper and should not be very, very far away, because then you will also have the associated cost of the transport that will make the end product expensive, and that would be a good idea at the very initial stage. Then this product, it undergoes lot of testing, lot of refinements. So because it should not create any sort of danger to the users, or it should not be a harmful for the environment, or the any other living organism. Now today you see the buzzword is natural, sustainable. So more and more consumers, they are willing to spend on the product which is nature friendly, which is eco friendly. So then afterwards, all of this, when this homework is done, then you need to have a proper launching pad. You need to launch, you need to sell, you need to look for the marketing team who will help you to sell the product. So whether you wish to go for the D2C segment, that is direct to consumer, or you wish to have the retail outlets, or some any other mechanism. So you need to develop. For as a startup, you need to start with the concept development, and then it goes to the marketing and selling. And of course, after this also, your work doesn't stop here. You need to provide good consumer support system. You need to have a good feedback system, so that the consumers, they are really happy, that they know that someone is listening. And you need to, each and every product has its a certain life time. So you need to keep on evolving. You need to make lot of improvements into the product, so that it becomes sustainable. It remains in the market for long time. You can just recall, there had been many products during your childhood time. You must have seen that either that product has vanished or it has changed. And then the product itself, they also keep on changing the packaging. Even the packaging is a part of the design, industrial design. So packaging, the kind of the containers, as well as the product itself, that there is lot of refining which takes place during the evolution of the product. So it is like the designing of the product which we are more focused on, because the product function meets form, then you have a good design. So that it's like, no, design is not like something which is very sleeping. It most of the time it increases the acceptance, or it is somehow it is evolved. So while say for example designing a product, you are designing, say for example, a pen, you need to take into consideration the maximum or the minimum size depending of that product, depending upon the person who are going to use it. So it cannot be very, very broad, it cannot be very small. So there is certain limitation of the size of this pen. So similarly, there might be limitations for the other products also. That is what is required to be known. Now coming to the design, we are now trying to understand this word design. What is actually design? What does happen after the prototyping? So once you have a prototype, as Dr. Yoga Lakshmi, she has shown you that prototype could be even made using a paper or maybe some other material like cardboard. So then the job comes where you need to give it a well-dressed, furnished form, so that it becomes market ready, so that the consumers, they are ready to accept it. Because obviously even you are not going to spend money on something, a phone, a pen, which is not durable, which is made up of this paper or the cardboard only. So it is very important to provide it a
design, the colors, the shapes, the features, even the combinations of with different lines and all. So technically, we call design as the industrial design. In our country, we have the mechanism of protection through industrial design, whereas in certain other countries like US, you have the mechanism of protecting the design through patents. So some of these the legislature or the legal system may vary a little bit. So in US you have utility patents, you have design patents, whereas in India we call it industrial design. So definition can vary a little bit, but the tenure of protection, the other mechanisms, it is almost the similar. Now, understanding the industrial design in terms of the Indian legislative system, what is an industrial design? So it is an ornamental or aesthetic aspect of an article, which could be applied in the 3D or in the 2D form. So it could be anything. It could be like shape, surface, pattern, lines, or color, something like that. But you must remember that it do not protect the technical features. It is only the aesthetic or the ornamental aspect which is protected through industrial design, because a finished state appeal is it is judged solely by the eye. So you go market, you're buying, whether you're buying a bed sheet or you're buying a crockery piece or any other electronic gadgets, you are going to judge a product most of the time, most of the large percentage through your eye only. So you see a finished state of that product which has undergone lot of refinement, market study, feasibility study, which has undergone all these checks and points. So or after this you are buying that product. So similarly, as a startup, you need to take care, because the product, it is helpful in maintaining in making the brand value of a company. So it is like it is telling you the language of that product. It is helpful in maintaining in making the brand of the startup, and it also helps in identifying the product. You see the color combination of Procter Gamble and many other companies. You might not even go and have time to read the trademark, but through just color combination, you go to the section in the store and you know where the Colgate toothpaste is. You just pick it up, or the Pepsodent, or the or Sibaka, or any other kind of, because there is that packaging, that design has become part of that product. It is inseparable, and to largest extent it also determines the market trend, as well as it also determines the consumer preferences. So it is like a consumer driven market. And you see those products which are specifically made for the kids, you look at them, mostly they are very colorful. They have certain cartoonistic characters, from a biscuit to a dustbin. Everything, if it is made specially keeping in mind the consumer preferences. So you are designing a product, you need to first also identify the consumer preferences, the group of consumers you are actually targeting to sell that product, and what is their preferences. So in simple word, you can say a good design is actually a good business. So designs, they need to be functional, they need to be manufacturable, and they need to be affordable. This is again very important. You cannot have come up with some design which cannot be manufactured easily, because for what purpose you are producing that design. You're making the design to make that product or the prototype which is more affordable, which is more acceptable in the market. So you need to keep the manufacturing cost also, the material which shall be used, whether if your design has lot of waves and all, whether the material which you wish to have will able to stand that crisp angles or those waves, whether it will have that much strength, and what kind of product the raw material you're going to use. And then after everything is over, you have a finished product. It should not be very expensive.
it should be affordable to the general mass. So all these things you need to keep in your mind. So now talking about the industrial design registration process in India. In India, we have a registration and protection of the industrial design. We have a specific legal acts and mechanisms. So it is administered by the Design Act 2000 and the Design Amendment Rules 2021. So this has, along with the Act, there are certain rules which define the legal, the implications, the sections and the subsections, and it routinely it undergoes lot of amendments. So we have the latest amendment in 2021. So as per this Design Act, the design must be applied to an article. So under the Design Act, what is an article? Article means any article of manufacture and any substance, artificial or partly artificial or partly natural, which includes any part of the article capable of being made and sold separately. So that's how you can have a separate design registration for a car, for a door, for a hand pen, for the windows. So because each and every article has its separate existence and that can be sold in the market itself. So talking about the registration process, it's very important to ensure the novelty. I will come into it later after this slide, that how a startup can ensure the novelty. So it need to do lot of searches, and then after ensuring novelty, the representation, it is usually made on a paper which indicates the novelty it has, because like other forms of IP, it is very important while registration that form of IP must be novel, it must be new. You also need to identify the class of design. So the product the startup is going to launch, to which class does that product belong? And then you need to identify, you need to write the statement of novelty, that where does this novelty lie, whether it lies in the shape itself, whether it lies in the color combination or in the combination of different lines. So after all this, after the startup or the entrepreneur ensures all these things, then it need to apply for the design registration. So using the specific forms, and in case there are any objection, the applicant need to comply, applicant need to answer, and mostly if it is well taken care, the designs, they are registered and the certificate is issued. If they are not taken care, then the objection they will remain, and then the applicant, if is not happy, can go to the court or can even drop the application and move for some other application. So what are the documents which are required for filing a new design? There is a Form 1, and along with that there are a lot of representations. That Form 1 is simple, it tells about the name, the address and all those things. And then if the applicant, the startup is taking the help of agent or any lawyer, then Form 21, which gives the power of authority. And then if the startups, mostly they are the small entities, so they can actually claim for certain concessions. So they need to apply on the form number 24. So, and if they had already applied in other countries, then they need to mention it. Otherwise, they need not to. If you are just startup in the India itself, no priority document is required. So there is only one office in Kolkata where the applicant file for all for the design registration using all these different forms. So nowadays online application, that facility is also available, but you need to have a digital signature. So here most of the law firms, they have the digital signature, so that help can be well taken care. Now, what are the other requirements? So as I just said, that while applying, the startups must ensure that their design is new. So otherwise there will be case of infringement, and the startups at the very, very early stage, they will fall into the legal trap, legal nitty-gritties. So the startup won't be able to survive. So that is why it is very important to ensure the novelty and originality of the product. Now, how that can be ensured? that must be not be disclosed or published before filing the application. So that is very important. The applicant must ensure that before filing, that product must not be launched or no details should be published. So that need to be kept confidential, and all those experimental stages, the manufacturing and the feasibility tests, they are done usually by signing the non-disclosure agreement with the concerned people, so that the confidentiality of that product remains. And they should also remember that registration can be cancelled if the examiner finds out. So even after the registration is done, the examiner or the any other person later on finds out that it is already registered or published, or there is nothing new, or it doesn't fall under the registration the criteria. So then the the registration shall be cancelled. Now, what are the designs which are not registrable? This is also important thing to be taken care for the any entrepreneur or the startup, that there are certain limitations, the article definitions and all, where the design can be applied, or it is actually it qualifies for the registration. So anything if it is applied, any aesthetic appearance or design is if it is applied in the inner part of the article, that cannot be registered. So because that is not visible, that is not going to decide whether that product will be sold or not. And part of the articles which are not sold separately. So as I just told you that the article must have its independent existence. So if the article it is unable, you cannot actually sell the article separately, then then the design cannot be applied to that part. So for example, you have a table, so you cannot, the table itself is a complete entity. You cannot have a design registration, say for the right side of the table or the left side of the table. Then buildings and structures, they are designed, they are protected under the copyright, not the industrial design, because that product need to be produced in mass numbers. Only then that design can be protected under the industrial design. Sole functional features, so functional features that can be protected through the patent. So if there is simple change in the size and the shape, then it is not, the product is not eligible for the design protection. If it qualifies for the trademark or the property mark, you see our university CUPB can have its the mark, the property mark on various furniture and all, the way Indian Railways have. So that indicates the property of that the company or the institution. So these are not eligible for design registration. For the logo registration, there is a separate mechanism. There is a separate form. Same for the trademark. Then artistic work, they need to be protected. They can be protected only under the Copyright Act. So similarly, any design which is contrary to public order or morality, that cannot be protected under the Design Act. So say for example, if someone is using the pictures of gods or goddesses on the footwear, so that is not protected under the Design Act. In fact, that will attract another some legal legal punishment. So so it is very important, while you have a prototype and you are designing it, you are making it more aesthetically acceptable in the market. So you need to take care about its appearance or the design registration mechanism. So you need to remember what are the designs which are not registrable. Now, what is the duration of the registration of design? It is actually 10 years from the date of registration, which may be extended for 5 years while filing through the form number 3 and paying the prescribed fees. So 10 plus 5 years, that is 15 years, is the total duration of protection which any person can get for the protection of the designs. Now, we hear many times about the piracy of the design, or there is like reputation. You see the newspapers, the media, especially the startups who are not very not very established, so they may, or their product may be intimated by others. So it is very important for the entrepreneur to ensure the novelty and to protect its product from being getting imitated. So if it is applied to any article without the written consent, that is considered to be piracy of the design as per the Design Act. So even the unauthorized application of the design, for like you have applied it for one class and you are, and someone is, or you yourself, you can actually apply even without the registration, but if someone else is putting that design or other product which may belong to the different class, then it is again considered to be piracy of that design. And what is the legal remedy for that they are liable to pay a sum of up to rupees 50,000 rupees for each act of piracy. So now we are in the design registration process. I talked about that you need to identify the class of design. What do you mean by class of design? So what if the startup is producing a product which belongs to a medical, which might be a medical device, and then say for example, if he has applied his design on a medical device which can be used to check the temperature, and then he comes up with another design, another product which can be used to check the blood pressure. Now what are the options which are available to that entrepreneur? Does he require to apply separate registration for each and every product, or what is the other option he can actually look for? So as per the Locarno classification, which is valid throughout the world, uh, it is an arrangement of WIPO, World Intellectual Property Organization, United Nations body. All these products, they are classified into 32 classes. And while mentioning the class, you automatically get protection for all the products which belong to that particular class. And then you should also remember that one design can be registered for more than one class also. So, but you need to mention the class while in the application itself. Now, what are these classes? So this I had taken from the manual itself. You see, class number 1, foodstuffs. So each and every, it is actually a good classification system where the classes, they are further classified into subclass and all, and you can go through the website to know further details. So in the application itself, there is one column mentioning the class for which the protection is being sought. So the articles of clothing, they are all such articles, they are protected under the class 2, and all the furnishing articles, they are protected, they belong to the class number 6. Then household goods, they are protected, they are mentioned in the class number 7. So similarly, we have 31 definitions of these classes, and then we have a class number 99 which mentions miscellaneous. So that means any article which do not fall in these 31 classes, that can be mentioned in the class number 99. So now you understand all these things. Now I would like to ask you one question before you start asking me. Can stamp, label, tokens, they can be considered as an article for the purpose of registration of design? So you can switch on your mic and answer this question. Can labels or stamps, the postal stamps, can that be considered as an article for the purpose of registration of design? So is it an article? No answers. Is there any information in the chat box itself? Okay. So see, the article must have its independent existence. So if you take out the industrial design, it should remain as a part of the article. So these articles they ceases to exist. So the industrial design cannot be applied to it. Now, I brought you some case studies. So this is actually the packing of the deodorant. So you see now these deodorant, it's like nowadays you wish to have to cover the maximum consumers, and we have the good number of disabled person or person with the special needs. So and all of us, they want to be independent. So this is actually special design which was developed by Adaptive Design Studio, SOAR and Creative Agency for Unilever, so that even the people with limited mobility, they can use the deodorant themselves. So it is obviously very difficult for them to have the hold on the bottle itself. So this you see, so they can use if they have the packaging itself has this specific design. Then talking about the elderly people, now you see more and more we are having the percentage of elderly people with dementia, with limited mobility, and more elderly people, they are now living independently, all alone. So the companies like ICA, they have come up with the idea of making special furnitures for them, and there are many other companies who are preparing special products. They are designing special products for them. So, for example, I compiled this picture that the company Era Utensils, it has collaborated with Sebastian Condren Associate, and it is trying to make designs of the articles so that cooking becomes easier for the older generation. So without any extra help or independently, they are able to move around. The way we talk about the child-friendly home, we can also talk about the elderly friendly home. So in fact, there is a need now to make special product for the elderly people. So the startups, they can have the good opportunity in these fields. So now the first question comes into picture: how you are going to ensure the novelty of the industrial design. So where you are going to have the information. So see, I would like to suggest here, for any startup, if you have come up with certain concept, if you had you have achieved that stage where you are ready with the prototype, and you are and you have that functional model with you, and you are looking for some aesthetic dressing to that product, so you must carry out some searches of that product, which is the designs which are already there in the market, so that your design is different, and this is how you can your product can actually can actually become eye catchy to the consumer, especially if there are those products, they are already, that range is already there in the market. So even if you are trying to catch entirely new market, it is again very important that the product, its appearance should be catchy, and the people, the consumers, they are attracted to buy that product. So how you are going to ensure? So it's very important. All of us, we are habitual of we are in habit of doing a lot of review of literature. So all of you are researchers and scientists people. Where do you go for to where do you do all these literature searches? We do these literature searches in the journal, the scientific literature. So similarly, we have the databases where you can carry out the novelty search to ensure the novelty of your industrial design. So these are the few examples, like for in India, as well as you can also do certain searches in the WIPO databases. I'll give you an example. Say, this is the Indian website, ipindia.gov.in, and you can just click on the publication part, the journals. For the patents, we do have the dedicated databases where you can put the keywords and you can ensure the novelty. But for the designs, for the Indian designs which are already registered, so it's very important you can take the professional help. You need to go through the individual you need to go through the individual journals and find out the those products. So just I think internet is slow. It will take some time. So by that time, I'm also taking you to this to the next this global design databases, that is the WIPO one. And I had also brought this picture. This is actually the snapshot of the recently published design in a journal. So you can see here the design number, the application number is mentioned, the class to which it belongs. So this seems to be a jewelry piece. So this belongs to the class 11. The applicant address is there, the date of registration and the title. So all these informations, they are available in the website. So it is still loading. And then you also have the option of global design databases, so which is comparatively it is easier. So you will just click on, this is the website which is actually maintained by the WIPO itself. So here you can see all these classes, they are mentioned, the definitions, they are also there. So how you are going to do the search? You need to click on the search and then search terms. So nowadays it is actually the mask which is most sort of. You can actually click on the select. If your mask you belong to the medical product class, then you need to go back, you need to identify the class through the various definitions, so where you are going to find out. Otherwise, like this time I'm just trying to search in all these 32 classes. So you see, fencing mask, skin diverse mask, then you have the class 24 with medical and laboratory equipments. So this is actually telling you the mask which the classes this mask is it will belong to. So then you can also do searches. You can also go through the databases which can helpful, which are really helpful. These are the snapshots which I had brought. That once you know the databases, then again you can look for the related designs which had been published. So indication of the product is mask, and we know that we wish to look for not for the toys, maybe we wish to look for medical and laboratory equipment. So we know that this class is 24. And you just need to click. You can go through certain other subclasses also, but you can just, that is enough. So you see, worldwide it is telling you the different designs which had been registered or are in the process. So you need to click. We have total 104. So you can generate the complete report in the PDF or the CSV form, and you can do the analysis later on. So I'm just clicking it on, and you can get the detail also by clicking on any of these. detail. So somehow this IP journal, it is not it's not opening. I think there is some issue with the website itself. So so what I mean to say or here is, or I would like to summarize here. So you have the concept, you have prepared the prototype, and obviously that product is going to belong to a certain class. So you need to go through the searches worldwide. So even if that design is registered in, say, US, you cannot have the protection for that design in India itself. So to ensure novelty, you must go through the searches yourself. You can do the preliminary search, or you can take the help of a professional who could really help you out. So you will have the some known designs, and you can come up with your own design, some new design for the prototype itself. So for further information, you can go through all these websites. So thank you so much. Let me know if you have any queries or questions. So you can also write down in the chat box itself.
So, Dr. Preeti, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So, like when we start, we have a design and so the way the trademark, register mark, and design, they are valid. How long? Like we say that okay, patent starts the filing process, and then it takes about 2 years. So, how long does this design and final it is registered? How long does it take? I mean, how long this process is?
See, nowadays, once you apply, you can apply online also. Next day, within 24 hours, the entrepreneur will get an application number. So once he receives the application number, he can immediately launch the product. And a tenure of protection starts from the date of application. So you must remember, some people, they confuse that the tenure of protection, it starts when the grant. No, it starts with the application itself.
Yes, that's true for the patents too, right? When it's filed,
Yes.
not when it is approved. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Preeti. So, any questions? Okay, I think thank you, Dr. Preeti. So you can. So we have Dr. Vikas Jayapat. He has joined.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so thank you, Dr. Preeti. So with this, I think the orientation session, the way it was planned and the way students showed up, I think it was good considering the exams are going on and all that. So I think the turnout was good, and I'm sure these 2 sessions will be helpful for you people, and they will be, Dr. Preeti will be sharing, they will be having some question and then post session support also. So Dr. Preeti, you can just brief a little bit about that, and then we can hand over to Dr. Vikas.
So yes, so all the faculty members, researchers and students, you are most welcome. You can contact us in the committee room of IQAC. Today after lunchtime, you can also contact in the room number 313, North Block of the academic session, and you can contact me anytime through email ID, or you can also come to meet me in case you have any query or any support is required from our side.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Preeti. So now I request Dr. Vikas Jayatak to please come give some concluding remark and pose vote of thanks. Dr. Vikas, please.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving this opportunity to give vote of thanks. First, I would like to give my sincere thanks to our first speaker, Dr. K. N. Yogalakshmi, Innovation Investor and Associate Professor, who has given talk on prototyping in business model. She shared about the stages of design thinking, importance of prototyping, quality of good prototype, type of prototyping, tips for creating a good prototype. Thank you so much, ma'am, for such a nice talk. Secondly, I would like to give thanks to Dr. Pritik Hettarpal, who is registered patent agent and innovation ambassador for talks on importance of design in product development and registration process. She shared she shared about IP identification and management, stages of product development, industrial design. Then, ma'am, you share about industrial design importance in product development, industrial design registration process, which are very relevant in present scenario. Thank you so much, ma'am. I am confident that both the talks will be informative to all the participants and they are benefited from it. Now, I am also thankful to Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor R.P. Tipari for his constant encouragement and support to organize these types of events. I am also thankful to Professor Manisha Dhiman, President ICC, for constant support and encouragement. I also thanks to technical support received from computer center and administrative staff. I am also thankful to all participants who have joined through virtual mode. Once again, thanks for each and every one. Thank you so much for your cooperation. Ma'am.
Now I request all of you to stand for national anthem.
पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उज्जल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगल दायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय जय जय